Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast with a new episode for you. Today, I am going to be joined by Joe Albert. He is the VP of Global Stretch Equipment for sales and marketing for Signode. And you guys may remember Signode. We had talked to them briefly at ProMat last year. They have a lot of different automated stretch wrap products and also offer stretch wrap as well. And different kinds of things. Joe is on the global stretch side, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're also going to talk about their Octopus C, which is something they were showing off at Modex recently. And Joe is actually a guitarist as well, so we're going to talk to a little bit about that. Very interesting. So Joe, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good, Kevin. Thank you for having me.
Definitely. Thanks for coming on. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this guitar thing? I saw this on the Signode website. There's an article talking about you being a guitarist and how it kind of relates to your work in a way. I think it's pretty interesting. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the thinking behind that and kind of how that has worked out for you?
So about 7 years ago, I was on a flight to Brazil and couldn't find anything on in-flight entertainment to keep me occupied.
Okay.
And I started listening to country music, something that I typically hated for a long period of time, and fell in love with it. And through the whole event, I wound up deciding that I was going to start to play and sing country music, rock, things like that. So
interesting.
Never had any lessons and bought a guitar and started playing and singing. So it's kind of been a challenge to myself to get outside of my corporate box, and a challenge to myself to see what I could accomplish and whether I could put the things together from the music playing, the singing, and really kind of pull it off.
Interesting. I like that. Yeah, it's kind of like stepping outside of your comfort zone, which is like very similar for me, I guess, in the aspect of what I did with the podcast. It was stepping out of my comfort zone as well. So you talk in the article, I read a little bit about how you talk about picking up an instrument like later in life, how it's kind of helped you change your thinking a little bit in the way that you work. Can you talk a little bit about that? I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. So, when you put a song together and you try to, get the rhythm down and you got to learn, there's a process you kind of go through to learn a new song. And part of it is learning the rhythm and the chord arrangement, and then trying to put that with the words and get everything to come together from a timing standpoint is very much the same as getting a product from point to point. You're bringing in raw material, you have to assemble it, you got to kind of stage everything and get it all queued up, and everything has to be done in a certain sequence so that it comes off the way that it's supposed to look on the other side of the production line.
Right.
It's kind of the same thing with the musical aspect of it. I mean, it's kind of a regiment that goes into it. It's kind of got me to be more creative in the way that I think in solving problems, and that there's really a lot of different ways to attack a situation or a problem. And if you're open-minded to it, that you're going to probably come up with a better solution in the end than if you just stick to a standard script that you've worked off of before.
Definitely. I find that very interesting because it's very similar, like I said before, with the podcast for me. And I think stepping outside of that comfort zone is definitely something you learn, and you're learning something different. But at the same time, like you said, you can bring what you're learning and how to kind of look at problems a little differently in your work as well. So it's really interesting. So I'm not gonna put you on the spot and ask you to sing a country song for us today. But what I read that you have pretty large repertoire, so it's pretty impressive. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Signode and what it is you guys do, and also you are on the global stretch equipment side. So why don't you talk about what that is as well?
Yeah, so Signode is a company that is typically known for steel and plastic scrapping, tools, equipment. Signode is a pretty diverse packaging company in that there's a lot of protective packaging such as airbags, corner board, tape equipment, stretch wrapping machines. We also have gotten into automatic storage retrieval systems. So it's a pretty diversified company that typically has operated as separate businesses under a lot of different names. And over the course of the last 6 months, we've rebranded ourselves. All these companies are going to market as Signode.
Okay.
And in a lot of cases, what used to be individual businesses are now brands under the Signode banner. So it's an exciting time for us as an overall organization to really kind of present ourselves in a way that's different than what we have in the past, that really no other company in the packaging space, specifically end of line, can bring to the table what we can bring to help customers solve problems. So we're kind of going through that transformation as we speak. And now the global stretch side of it, while Signode as an overall company just started the journey 6 months ago, we started our journey about 2.5 years ago, where we took several different companies in the marketplace globally, Muller, Lockenmeyer, Aloyla, Boole, and we brought those businesses together as one organization under Signode, under one management team. And rather than kind of compete against each other in the open marketplace under different names globally, we've really brought everything together where we're going into the marketplace in a unified way. Instead of having a stretch hood machine from Lockenmeyer competing against the whole Octopus, we now look at the application with one rep and really holistically look at what's the best need satisfier for that customer's problem. And that's what we represent. And it's a little bit different thought process than what we used to do, where we had reps competing against one another based on the platforms that they sold.
Right, so it kind of gives them a little more diversity, I guess, in what they're offering to the customer. So I think it makes total sense to streamline it like that.
Yeah, it helps us streamline. It also it takes a little bit more broad-minded person who's actually selling. So in some cases, what we're having reps really kind of change the way that they think to more of a consultative selling thought process.
Okay.
That going in and really interviewing the customer and trying to understand where the problems are upstream on their production line, because where we sit at the end, where we're wrapping a pallet of product, we can significantly impact their productivity positively or negatively if you don't have the right machine there. So we try to spend time looking upstream to understand how we can improve productivity. And then also we try to look downstream to, are we packaging or wrapping the load properly? Because there's hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars lost getting the product typically from the manufacturing facility to that end customer. So how can we really attach ourselves upstream and out the door down the road and hang our hat on those numbers to help customers improve bottom line profitability.
Got it. Yeah, it makes sense. I think you have a good point there. Looking upstream to find really where the beginning part of the problem is, I think is one of the big things when you look at process improvement. So it's good that you guys are doing that. And now one of the products that you're offering, and I think you mentioned it in there, was the Octopus C, right? Which is this automatic rotary ring stretch wrapper. And I love the name, definitely Octopus, very cool. And that was one of the things you guys were showing off at Modex. So talk to us a little bit about that and how that works and what kind of effect that has for the customers that are using this in terms of improving their process.
We'll be back after a quick break.
You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay, well, the Octopus is a unique automatic stretch wrapper in that it's a ring type concept where most everybody else, specifically in North America, either uses a turntable automatic or a rotary arm automatic type machine. So with the ring, it gives you some advantages in speed, in footprint, and your ability to modularly change the machine over time as the customer's needs change. So there's an inherent film savings with a ring-based stretch wrapper than there is with a turntable or a rotary arm, in that you don't have to put as much film on the load with the ring because the clamp cut seal mechanism is on the ring itself. So with any conventional turntable or rotary arm machine that's out there globally, the cycle begins and ends at the top of the roller of the conveyor.
Right.
So in order to get to the top of a 6-7 foot high load, you've got to spiral up about 2 revolutions to get to the top of that load before you can energize the turntable or the arm into a high speed wrapping sequence to get down to the bottom. We have that cut clamp seal mechanism on the ring itself, so we can independently start and stop anywhere on the load. And so what we would typically do is come down to the bottom of the load, we'll attach the film, we'll cycle to the top, clamp cut seal, and then the ring moves up out of the way and the load moves through. So it allows you to pick up some speed over conventional machines. But there's typically about a 20 to 25% film savings by eliminating that spiral to get to the top of the load before you can start to put the machine into a higher gear to wrap to the bottom. The other thing, too, is with the ring design, you're able to apply top sheet film right in the wrap zone. You can apply a top cap right in the wrap zone. Okay. You can put corner board applicators right in the wrap zone. So there's a lot of unique footprint saving scenarios that you can use in an Octopus that you would be forced to do upstream or downstream with the competitive machines that are out there.
Right. So you can kind of do like all of that kind of protective prep right in that one area. That's good. And I love the savings too on the wrap. That's big because that adds up over time.
Correct.
Yeah. So you mentioned in there too that you're saying that, and you mentioned earlier before we started talking on the episode that you're doing a lot of business in Europe. So do you see a trend in these stretch wrappers changing in the States as well?
Yeah. So in Europe, oddly enough, it's largely for high-speed wrapping. Okay. It's largely a ring-based marketplace. So now conversely in North America, it's largely a turntable or rotary arm.
Right.
Some of it is because that's the lineage that we in North America have really pushed over time.
Yeah.
But I think we're starting to see that change ever so slightly. Some of our competitors are now starting to get into the ring side of it as well, because they see the advantages to a ring versus the rotary arm.
Yeah.
They typically don't like to lead with it because it goes counter to what they've preached.
Yeah.
And it also makes a machine that's a little bit more expensive. And they typically don't like to go that direction because they sell through distribution, where we sell mainly through our direct sales team. And that allows us to sell a more sophisticated machine and do some things that typically distributors aren't able to do in expertise with the salespeople.
That's really interesting. I didn't realize that there was like that contrast in the stretch wrapping world versus Europe versus America. So, but I definitely see as you're talking about the Octopus, and I've seen it before working in person and also videos online. I definitely see the advantages of it, especially as you said, you're reducing the footprint and also that savings on wrap. I think that's huge because that adds up over time as well. So you guys had this Octopus C on display at Modex recently. So how was the response to it, and what I know Modex attendance was a little lower, but what I heard is that the people that were attending were more very focused on what they wanted and seeing the things that they wanted to see. So what was the response from attendees of the booth that were viewing this, and what do you see from potential customers or customers as what they're looking for to kind of upgrade their stretch wrapping situation, or what the trend may be kind of going forward now?
Yeah, the Modex show obviously was off this year because of coronavirus and everybody trying to feel their way through
Right.
that. I think despite that fact, we had a lot of activity and interest in the machine. Obviously, Modex is an automation type of show, so the people that are there are looking to upgrade their operations in some way, shape, or form, or their systems integrators or large OEMs that are involved in a lot of automation type projects. So I think for us, we felt as though on the Octopus side it was a good show. We have got some really good leads out of it. We're able to build some new bridges with some new people that we hadn't dealt with in the past on the systems integration side. So I think all in all, it was a good show.
That's good to hear. Definitely. It's always good to hear, especially like you said, when attendance is low due to the uncontrolled circumstances, right? I think that week was really when everything just kind of started hitting. So it's pretty interesting to see how things went. So I'm happy to hear that you guys did well there as well. So kind of talking about the COVID-19 coronavirus situation, when we look at the stretch wrapping automated side of the business, are you guys seeing any increase in demand for automated solutions, especially when there's, I guess, some uncertainty about workforce and trying to kind of come up with contingency plans?
Yeah, I think there definitely is. We have seen since the start of everybody really kind of starting to work from home, people aren't traveling at all at this point. I think my days personally have gotten busier because now that people are in one place, they're trying to move projects forward. They're rekindling projects that they've kind of pushed aside. I think that the general rule of thumb is that people do want to continue to automate wherever that they can, and really to do it so that they can increase productivity with the lines that they have.
Right.
Obviously, I think what we're staring down the barrel of is probably some type of economic correction, recession,
Right.
as we come out of this thing in the months to come. And as I've been with the Signode organization for 32 years, 20 on the strapping side of it, and the last 12 on the stretch side. When we had the last downturn, 2007, 2008, as I looked at the markets that Signode was typically tied to, heavy industry, metals, lumber, brick, block, construction, we saw 40 to 45% reductions in customer volumes just because the whole arena had changed and people weren't spending and they had lost jobs and whatnot. When I went to the stretch side of the business and kind of did the same analysis, we only saw about a 5 or 10% drop off in volume out of the gates with the recession.
Interesting.
People still have to eat and drink and groom themselves, and those are key markets for us on the stretch side.
Yeah.
And typically the ones that demand the highest, most sophisticated machines. So people still have to eat and drink. Their preferences may change. They may not be using a well-known global brand, but they may be going to, using the Kroger brand or whatever their local grocery chain is. So you may see shifts from customer to customer, but I think the thing that we saw back then and we continue to see heating up now is, people wanting to make sure that they can meet demand and that they're able to get their product out in a shorter period of time, because that for them is really where the profits get gained.
Definitely, yeah, and I think you had a good point in there too about how right now things are slowing down a little bit for some businesses, but people are kind of in one place, so it's a chance to revisit some of those projects. And I think right now too, it's a good chance for people to actually look at their processes and see how they can automate a little bit and increase their productivity as well, like you said. So I think it's a good opportunity for that. And like you said, I mean, I think without a doubt, we're definitely going to have some kind of economic correction. But I think at the same time, towards the end, when we start to see the end of this thing and we get out of there, I think there's going to be a little bit of a surge as well, because a lot of people are probably holding back on orders and stuff for the time being. And hopefully, they'll still need them at the end there. So definitely interesting insight from you on that, what you guys are seeing on your end of the business. Now, what about in terms of, obviously everywhere we know there's shortage of toilet paper and things of that nature, but what about on the stretch and packaging side? Is there any shortages for any operations managers that are listening out there that they should be looking out for?
Yeah, I think at this point, our business within Signode, all the products that we make are really kind of deemed essential.
Right.
And so our parent company, Crown Cork and Seal, or Crown Holdings, who also caters to as an essential business in the market with cans for beverages and food and things along those lines. We've all been, really focusing on making sure that we had a steady plant operation. So to make sure that we didn't have issues, we started the social distancing early. We also started staggering shifts so that we had limited contact between shifts. And I think, that early planning and that early initiatives that we took on, have helped us keep our operations going and the product flowing. The only place that I can think of that we had issues was India. We physically had to shut down there, but I believe we're back up running full again at this point, and that was because the government made us shut down. All businesses shut down for a period of time before they started ramping things back up. But I know, the machines that my group are responsible for come out of Finland, Denmark, Germany, Bulgaria, and we haven't really missed a beat in terms of anything, and even the supply of motors and things like that coming into our factories still has been pretty steady, pretty solid, despite the fact that Europe has kind of put up walls, from country to country, trying to limit the flow of product. But we haven't experienced any shortages there.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's good to hear, and good to know from your side as well, just to be aware of what's going on out there, especially at a time like this. So, Joe, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking with us. How can people find out more information about Signode?
You can check us out at www.signode.com.
All right, easy enough. We will put that information on the newwarehouse.com as well for reference. So, Joe, thank you so much. I hope you are doing okay at home, and I'm sure you're getting extra time to practice the guitar as well. So thank you very much for coming on and talking to us.
I appreciate it, Kevin. Thanks for the opportunity.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.